pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a fan. Hooray for Hollywood! When you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck, you may be Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood!
Hello everyone, and welcome to Damn You Hollywood. It is January 1st, 2019, and I can't catch a break. Literally the first day of the year. But Mark's Napoleon complex manifests itself in various ways, one of them being the schedule. I'm Robert Winfrey. Thank you all very much for listening. Tonight on Damn You Hollywood, we will be tackling Bumblebee.
Yum, yum, Bumblebee, Bumblebee tuna. I like Bumblebee, Bumblebee tuna. Oh, no. We're Bumblebee the robot, not Bumblebee tuna, right?
I can't believe you just did that.
Really? Because it would at least be the second time on any one of these podcasts.
You have no idea. For about a year and a half around my house.
Why does everything spark a story with you, old man Aesop?
My two youngest brothers, we had this stupid variant of that song that would just was recurring around this house for about a year and a half. It was the most random thing ever, and for some reason you just and look, if you can wax poetic about your work in a prison, jail, whatever it is, then you can allow me to do that every now and then.
Okay, it's fair enough. I'm just I want to say there's a punk rock band that did a cover of the Bumblebee Tuna song.
It was probably infinitely better than everything they'd ever come up with on their own.
It's a bit harsh.
It's punk rock. I mean, it barely qualifies as a genre.
Why are you racist against punk rock? Oh, we're already off and going into a goddamn thing. Ugh, I tell you.
I was just trying to get you to ask why are you racist within the first 10 minutes of the show.
Mission accomplished.
We're kicking off 2019 a great way. Okay, that is Mark Radulich, of course, if you're unfamiliar with the show.
Hello.
Joining us this week by special request, this show is like the black hole of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. Once people get too close to its pull, they can't get out. Like, for some reason, you're on this show once, you wind up coming back over and over. You can't actually pass over our event horizon. It just can't happen. But David Wright is back with us. David, thank you for tolerating us. How are you doing this evening?
Well, we've grown a wheat ninny bong, everyone. I'm doing fine, thanks.
Woo!
Oh, my childhood. I don't think we're going to get a better reference out of this entire show than that. We should just back it up.
Yeah. Unless we can get Eric Idle on, and then we can dance and quote old commercials.
I would be satisfied if Mark had somewhere on his computer Dare to Be Stupid and could just blast it over portions of the podcast.
Yeah, that would take some degree of preparation. All right.
Yeah, none of us care that much.
All right, listen, I got DC Lego villains calling my name, so Bumblebee, plot synopsis, or ask David why he decided to come back and talk about Transformers. Pick one.
Let's prolong this as long as possible then. So, David, again, you offered to be on this show.
Son of a bitch.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
I'm perpetually surprised that people say, I'd like to be on the show with these two screw-ups. But you did.
Hey, you make me look good.
That is a very fair assessment. Mark, we are enhancement talent. Just thought you should know.
I've always considered myself to be a jobber.
Yeah. I've always considered you a jobber, too. So anyway, the point being, what inspired you to come back on for this particular show? You're about my age, give or take, I seem to recall. So would Transformers a big part of your childhood? Why come on and talk about everyone's favorite, interstellar representation of a crappy German automobile?
Okay, well, yeah, back when I was a kid, I got into Transformers. I wouldn't say I was the biggest Transformers fan, but I had some of the toys. I watched the TV show. I got the basics of it, And so when I found out they were making a live action special effects Transformers movie, I was of course very interested, and I at that point did not really know who Michael Bay was. So, and even better, I didn't know who Roberto Orci or Alex Kurtzman were. So I was still fairly naive in that.
Oh God, that must have been a really harsh awakening for you.
It was. Well, with the first Transformers movie, like I thought, this is all right. I mean, some of the jokes are kind of stupid, and the characters are annoying, but they can always improve on that in the next one. And then I went to see the next one and found out that not only did they not improve on that, they basically amplified all aspects of the first film that I hated. And it didn't really get that much better since then. Like, Transformers 3 was a bit better, but committed the unforgivable crime of making me angry at Leonard Nimoy.
You know what? I'd never thought about that being the biggest sin from Transformers 3, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I just remember I was watching it with one of my friends, and it's like, when will you learn, Prime, that the needs of the many, outweigh the needs of the, few or one? And then we just, for about 5 minutes, yelled nothing but the F word at the screen. I'm not exaggerating. It was about, 5 minutes of nothing but FU.
Well, considering that scene drags on for another 10 minutes before Shitty LaBeef smacks jackass from Grey's Anatomy in the back of the head with something to end it, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I don't actually blame Shia LaBeouf for that. I mean, he was tasked with playing an annoying teenager, and he filled the role brilliantly. Now, everything he's done in his personal life, that's on him, but I won't lay the corpse of Sam Witwicky entirely at his feet.
No, it's not entirely him. I mean, he does nothing to actually elevate the material, but he's given nothing but crap to work with.
He is a male character in a Michael Bay film who is not enlisted.
I mean, to be fair, even
the odds are against him. Yeah. Transformers 4, it was probably showing signs of recovery, but...
Oh, God, how could you say that?
Look, I'm not saying it was good, but it was like, okay,
it sure was.
We're climbing close up to
Ark,
not bad.
Stop it.
Age of Extinction was a piece of art.
That or I'm just still happy
it was
that
a
they
piece
killed
of
off the
modern
character
art, just to say shit.
30 minutes into the film. I was so happy when that guy, froze in whatever that stuff was. Like, oh, thank goodness.
If only it had happened 15 minutes earlier.
Yeah, but, oh well. So yeah, it's been 10 years of not good Transformers movies. I think of that, Star Wars fans. Transformers fans have had to endure 10 years of this stuff, and they haven't even bitched as much as you guys have.
That's true.
So when I saw the trailer for Bumblebee, I was like, oh hey, Orci, Kurtzman, Bay, they're all not involved in this, and it actually looks like Transformers. This could be good. So I want to give it my money and talk about it.
Well, I can't control where you spent your money, but you're here, and we will definitely make sure you have time to express your opinion.
Yeah.
All right. Here's everyone's warning about the incoming spoilers, because I'm going to tell you what happens in this movie. It's not going to take long.
Okay. This is 2019. It's a new year. It's a time for DDP yoga, losing weight, watching what we eat, and not going off into
the squat rack,
and not going into tangents during the plot review, during the plot synopsis. Okay, I'm watching you closely, Winfrey. My eyes on you. Heads up, eyes in the game, eye on the ball. Don't go off on the tangents. You get no tangents. No tangents. No editorializing.
We'll see how that works out for you.
It's an
interesting policy to try to adopt.
I'm going to yell at you every time.
Okay, I can live with that.
Be good.
You're using good incorrectly. All right. We open Bumblebee with a shot of the Cybertronian Civil War. We see Optimus Prime being a badass, finally. Sending off a bunch of other Autobots into the galaxy, specifically Bumblebee towards a little-known backwater of a planet called Earth to set up a fallback point for the Autobot resistance so that they can rally there. And if the Decepticons find it, well, we're all screwed. Bumblebee arrives, is subsequently ambushed by John Cena and a Decepticon who has slightly more acting range than John Cena. In the ensuing battle, Bumblebee famously loses his voice and his memory.
Okay, the Decepticon that he's fighting is Blitzwing. It's Blitzwing, the triple changer.
You don't get credit for looking at the wiki, Mark.
No, I already knew that because we talked about it on source material. So there.
Fair enough. Again, Bumblebee is victorious, but goes into power-saving mode while he desperately tries to recover, having assumed the form of a Volkswagen Beetle. We then flash forward an indeterminate period in time, not too much, but an indeterminate period, and are introduced to Charlie Watson, who's a teenage girl dealing with the crux of her arc is that she's still struggling to get over the death of her father. And she's a bit handy with the mechanics because this is the perfect apex of Mark Wahlberg and Shitty LaBeef.
Because
to
it's
be
what
both
the
a
plot...
teenager,
No, bad
and
free.
mechanically inclined.
It's what the plot needed at the time to make sense for her to pick up an old car that would turn out to be an advanced robot species. Move on.
Sticking with mine. We follow her around for a day or so. We get to know a little bit of her life, her struggles.
Her stalker.
He's not a stalker. He's just an awkward teenager.
Yeah, fair point.
Don't get me wrong. It's very easy to see the overlap. But when you're an awkward teenager, everyone just kind of understands you're an awkward teenager, despite the fact that teenagers are just terrible people. When you're 20, you're a stalker.
Fair point.
We also get enough... apparently not quite enough 80s references for some people. But, boy howdy, we're in the 80s. She also discovers a beat-up old Volkswagen Beetle at her... Uncle. She refers to him as uncle, but I don't think they ever really establish whether that's just an affectionate... whether that's by blood or just by friendship, association, etc., but she winds up taking this particular Beetle home with her because she's a teenager and all teenagers want cars. She tries to fix it up, manages to do so, thus reawakening Bumblebee, who now has no voice and no memory. She fixes his radio, which inevitably leads to him regaining some crude means of communication. There's a few jokey bits. He breaks into the house and tears it up accidentally because we must rip off the Iron Giant. All the while he is being stalked. Well, not stalked. There's a group looking for him that consists of a couple of Decepticons who are tracking the remaining Autobots around this part of the solar system, and I can't even say fledgling necessarily, but it's never, again, the timeline is a little bit wonky here, but the current incarnation of Sector 7, where we meet where we are reintroduced to John Cena's character, who has a name, but no one cares.
I believe
Decepticons.
I believe it's Jarhead McShooty.
Sounds about right. Soldier guy.
Look,
Army guy.
The casting call went out for John, hoping to get John Turturro back. Instead, they got John Cena.
Simmons was in the movie.
Really? Where?
It was one of the early scenes where John Cena is, promoted up to general, and he's basically his lackey. It was just a very brief thing, like, Simmons, get me the general on the phone, and the guy, kind of looked like a young...
Followed by him pulling out a Desert Eagle that wouldn't actually be invented for another 20 years.
Yeah, but that was a little Easter egg I noticed.
Okay. I missed it. Fair play. Although he must have aged like a metric ton between 1987 and 2000.
I bet he did a lot of drugs.
It's got to be something like that. Anyway, they are looking for Bumblebee because he's an Autobot and they want to kill him, and he might know where Optimus Prime is, and so the government agency that nope, I'll save it. I'll deal with that in a minute. So the government agency tracks him down. They yank Bumblebee from the arms of his new human after they have a few misadventures together, because we are ripping off E.T. as well. Charlie, because she's a strong, independent woman who doesn't need a man, but does in fact need a robotic, sentient life form from another galaxy. Breaks him out of the worst secured top-secret facility in the world. We get the fake death scene because why not? Bumblebee slowly regains his memories after being shocked repeatedly, because that's how head trauma works. If that's how head trauma works in humans, electric trauma works that way in computers. Seriously, next time your computer shorts out and you have a memory issue, I invite you to just take an electric current and apply it to the motherboard. Works wonders.
Yeah, well, they did kind of turn him off and then on again, and that solves 90% of your computer problems.
What you can do is put the computer in the bathtub. That works out really well.
If you happen to have a really high-powered magnet... anyway, Bumblebee and Charlie then manage to stop the Decepticons that are on Earth from sending their signal to the main Decepticon army that, hey, Earth, this place, where Megatron went missing and where the Allspark's hidden and where we're all going to congregate again in 20 years anyway? Yeah, come here. They stop that. They kill the Decepticons. We get another fake sort of death scene from Bumblebee because, well, if it's good once, it'll be good the second time, right? Charlie channels her inner never-ending story part 2 heroic moment to jump off of a high place into a bunch of water filled with debris, including a mostly broken up ship. That's such a great idea. John Cena, having seen that Bumblebee is a good guy, not a bad guy, lets them escape the consequences of their actions.
Why didn't he figure that out at the beginning of the movie?
Well, they were a military unit specifically set up to deal with interstellar threats. He just assumed, being that this is what he was trained for, that this giant robot from outer space was a threat and did what he was trained to do. When there was some context and he got to understand the situation a little bit better, he realized what he was doing. He also was under the assumption that the robots that they were partnered up with were telling the truth, and when he realized he had been bamboozled, he corrected himself.
No, he never really trusted them. But there's actually a very specific reason he behaves the way he does, apart from the fact that plot says so, and this character is nothing but a mechanism for plot.
Yeah, well, I'll put a pin in that until the summary's done.
Yeah. Charlie winds up sending Bumblebee off to go be a hero with Optimus Prime, who has now arrived on Earth, and will apparently leave again at some point in the near future to make a dramatic return into the backyard of Sam Witwicky in, again, a few years.
Or we could just pretend that never happens and make better movies.
That would be nice. He transforms into a Camaro just before he leaves, just to be a dick. Like, I've made you putter around in this crappy VW Bug, but hey, I literally could have been anything.
Yeah, well, he had to change his disguise because everybody knows he's a Volkswagen Bug now.
No, I maintain Bumblebee's a dick. Anyway, Bumblebee reunites with Optimus Prime, and they begin setting up operations on Earth for their future war. Charlie, having utilized this entire experience as a mechanism for some degree of personal growth, finally finishes fixing up the Corvette she and her deceased father were working on in the garage, and gains enough confidence to interact with other humans going forward, something to that effect. She's in a better place than when we met her initially, I suppose, is the only way I can phrase that.
It's called an arc. Character development. Screenwriting 1.
I have a few things about her.
Yeah. I wasn't directing that to you, Robert. I was directing it to other so-called writers.
Really? Because I thought Robert deserved to have it directed at him.
No, I mean, the fact that Charlie is easily the best written and most interesting human character in any of the Star Wars. I mean, I'd say Star Wars too, but certainly any of the Transformers movies.
Again, that's not saying much.
It's not, but it's at least something. I mean, it's better than, hey, Mark Wahlberg, we're going to change your hair. It's going to be longer. Try a Texas accent. Oh, God, that's awful. Never mind, just sound like you're from Boston. Or poor Anthony Hopkins.
So
I hope he was paid well.
Ditto.
So I was somewhat looking forward to this. I mean, after what we've been, after the high point that was Age of Extinction, and then the low point that was
Mark. Don't drop
this This is my time. I'll say what I want. After the high point that was Age of Extinction, and then the extremely low point that was The Last Night, which probably killed the franchise. At least that line of storytelling was probably dead now. It's Paramount. Paramount, opted to do a soft reboot of this thing with the Bumblebee prequel. And again, at first I wasn't tremendously excited. I was like, whatever. There's so much damage that having been done to this franchise already that I kind of don't care. And then I got to look at some of the images from the film, and specifically when I sat down to watch it, what really makes this movie for me, there are two things. There are two elements. One is the opening Cybertron scene, and
that is legitimately pretty darn great.
I mean, right down to the voices, and even later on when they deal with like Cliff Jumper, and I mean, other than the two. What's weird to me is that they used authentic-looking G1 Transformers in the Cybertron scene and the Cliffjumper scene, and then the two villains pursuing Bumblebee looked nothing like anybody I've ever seen before. I thought it was an odd choice. But having said that, they did a really excellent job of saying, you know what, we know what the Michael Bay Transformers movies looked like. We know that they were mostly unreadable, unwatchable, that they were called. A lot of these Transformers look like, in name only, like Hound, for example. But here they did a really great job of paying homage to what fans of the Transformers series wanted and grew up with. So I thought that was great. Now, the second part of it, once you get past the Cybertron scene, which is like the best part of the movie, it really is just a very simple story about a boy and her, a boy and his dog, and that's it. Everyone gives an adequate to good performance. I didn't have any major problems with the CGI. Bumblebee looks pretty good throughout the movie, and if Bumblebee came off looking terrible, the movie would fail. It said very much the same thing about Aquaman. Charlie is a likable character, unlike Shia LaBeouf, who was highly unlikable and, didn't...
Or Wahlberg and his daughter and his love interest and her love interest and...
Yeah, they kept the cast very simple. The family dynamic makes sense. You have a mother who's in the who's unfortunately a widow, but has moved on. Even the stepdad, they wrote him as somebody who is sincerely trying to do right by this family and do right by Charlie. And is in the unfortunate place of Charlie not being over her dad, and he's kind of left with, well, what do I do? Even the brother, who's somewhat obnoxious, is at least gets a few funny lines. He gets some fun stuff to do. So I
wanted him to die.
They took the essence of what these Transformers movies have been and distilled it into a very pleasurable movie-watching popcorn experience with likable characters and well-defined CGI. You can't ask for anything more than that. You're going to see a movie about a robot that turns into a car. So, as far, I went with my kids. They loved it. They again, they are 8 and 4. So their experience it with when Bumblebee was having his throat ripped out and was being shot at by John Cena, whatever, really thought Bumblebee was going to die. So. And as far as it appeals to children, which I think was part of the goal here, I thought it succeeded. So overall, I thought I enjoyed the movie. The kids enjoyed it. It looked well. The characters were likable. I really have no major complaints about this movie. David?
I think I aligned with you on a lot of that stuff. The first thing that brought me in, of course, was just seeing the G1 designs looking like the G1 designs and acting like those characters. It's like, oh, hey, Bumblebee looks like Bumblebee, Optimus Prime looks like Optimus Prime. Holy smokes, Soundwave is Soundwave, and holy smokes, he's spitting out tapes.
I particularly enjoyed seeing Shockwave look like Shockwave.
Yeah, that was another one, too. But, yeah, Soundwave was probably the big one for me because, I think they actually had Frank Welker do the voice for the Bay movies, and then they made him sound completely not like Soundwave, and then he started dry humping satellites. Okay. So to see that character and hear that character be like authentic to the original, that was a big we've been waiting a long time to see that. And that started 20 seconds into the film I was already this is like better Transformers than I have seen in 10 years of other Transformers movies. And once you got to the Earth story, it was for the most part just okay. It's an all right movie about getting over the death of a loved one and character arcs and stuff like that. They used the diving as a metaphor for her moving on, having something to live for, and that's good. Really, my only complaints were, the stuff with the Transformers was so good that I just wish there was more of it in the film.
Yeah, if they just fall of Cybertron, please.
Yeah. If they just had Cybertron for 90 minutes, I would have been fantastic, great. I did find that much like the Bay films, I find most of the human characters to be pretty annoying. The family characters, they kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I just kind of wanted those scenes to be over as soon as possible. Though I get if you're an 18-year-old girl, pretty much your family is annoying, especially your stepdad. So it kind of works at that level, but still, I didn't really get much of it. And it reminded me of the other Michael Bay films, and that was what I was hoping not to get at all from this film. As for John Cena, he played Army McArmy guy just fine. Just once I would wish that the Army would see an alien and go, maybe we should start with not trying to kill it.
Let's try talking to it and see what happens.
Yeah, let's try talking.
Conversely, they should just kill them.
Yeah, be prepared to kill it. Prepare for that eventuality. But maybe let's just start by, seeing how good they are. It's like, hey, this guy was the one that didn't shoot at us, so maybe he's not all that bad, and we should ask him first before just immediately shooting him. Because I don't know about you guys, but when Bumblebee went all red-eyed and started shooting at the soldiers, I didn't feel that sorry for them.
No.
He's been very good about not shooting at them for about the past hour, despite them shooting him every chance they get. It's kind of like, you know what, guys, you kind of had that one coming.
Yeah, let me say this. If you look at the Michael Bay Transformers movies, these are the Optimus Prime movies and a cast of faceless Transformers. Even Bumblebee has no personality. He's just he's sort of there for sight gags and to do stuff with the radio. That's all he amounts to. That Prime is the only one with an actual personality and a reason to root for the Transformers. They went out of their way and did a really great job of giving Bumblebee a lot of charisma. You really feel for this character. You see where he's coming from. You're there with him on this journey, as he suffers through amnesia, essentially. Let's pretend he's not a robot for a second. Here you have a guy who's a stranger in a strange land. He has amnesia. He's just trying to figure things out. And, and he bonds with this girl, mostly out of fear of what am I supposed to do next? I don't know what to do, And then he's this big giant thing in a world of small things, and so you have like a Gulliver's Travels kind of a thing going on. And they did a really good job of humanizing the Bumblebee character to where you're with him for the whole movie. He isn't just a series of sight gags. And while I wouldn't call this, this is Bumblebee's movie, as the name states, but there's this habit in Hollywood of saying it's the Bumblebee movie, but the focus is on the human character. She's there, to sort of get you through some of these odd moments of the movie, because you can't do the whole thing on Bumblebee. But this is truly his movie, and I think that's where its success lies. Is that you are there watching his story, and you're with him with all of his personality quirks and issues and stuff like that. So I thought they did a really, really good job of making this about Bumblebee and giving there something to be about, giving the character something to be about. Yeah,
it's character focused with a character arc, not just a beginning or an end, but a middle too. Yeah. About my only other complaint is I thought they could have much better used "You've Got the Touch."
That was a fun moment. All right,
it was, but I was expecting that for the final action scene where Bumblebee just goes and kicks butt and takes names.
No, you need that. If that doesn't happen while Optimus Prime is tearing through a series of Decepticons, then you've utterly wasted it.
I have faith in this new team. It'll probably happen.
Well, there's talk of an Optimus Prime solo movie, about what happened. People have been asking for it, and there's rumors that they're gonna do a story about what happens to Optimus Prime between the fall of Cybertron and him showing up on Earth. So we'll see. I would much prefer them to go back and just do a fall of Cybertron movie, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean, really, what is it about? I mean, someone really will have to explain to me why they can't just make that movie. It's the most interesting thing that the Transformers are involved in, generally speaking. It's the precipitating event for all of this. You can pretty easily set up, disparate factions. You can actually have decent dialogue and characters come out of the Transformers, and you can have some really awesome action set pieces. Like, what more could you really ask for? No, but there's no people. I don't see that as a bad thing.
If only making films that were entirely done using animation was a thing.
Yeah, you're just talking crazy, man.
I know, right? Yeah.
I mean, next thing you'll be saying there will actually be, come on, man. Nobody wants to hear an actor talk.
All right,
yeah, they're movies, not talkies.
All right, Winfrey, what's your issue in life?
In life?
Regarding this movie.
All right, full disclosure, and I want to be very clear about this. What I'm about to say is not necessarily the biggest knock on this movie. I hate amnesia as a story device. I just hate it. Just profoundly hate it. There's a grand total of one movie with amnesia as a narrative piece that I don't loathe. And I don't think it's a coincidence that that particular movie features antigrade amnesia rather than retrograde amnesia. It is it is genuinely one of my least favorite things. After bad CGI, amnesia. No, get out. Which should also explain to a lot of you why I'm a bit reticent about Captain Marvel.
You mean you're not upset just because she doesn't smile? I mean, that's really the most important thing.
Why would she smile?
That's the complaint about the movie. She doesn't smile.
Well, you see, I can't complain about it because she's a girl in my boy stuff. I have to invent a new reason to hide that I don't like that she's a girl in my boy stuff. And apparently I can't come up with any better idea than she doesn't smile on the poster.
God. I mean, I hate that we have now, as a society, so gone to just throwing racist, bigot, sexist, homophobe at anyone with a mildly disparate point of view. That you can't just say, you know what, I'd prefer not to have boys in my girl things or girls in my boy things. Is that really such a radically ridiculous point of view? No, look. If you're not interested in Captain Marvel because it's a female-led movie, fine, whatever. Genuinely, who cares?
But I don't. What was weird about that? If you're a Marvel fan, I mean, Captain Marvel, whether she was doing the bathing suit thing or she was doing the full bodysuit costume, has been around in at least in the Avengers for like 20 years or more.
Sure. Mark, don't ask me to try and understand these people. I can't understand.
That's what I have, like if comic book fans are complaining, they're just like, no. We don't need no education. We don't need no female-led Marvel movies. It's like, but they've been there. They didn't. This isn't the Korean Hulk or the Girl Thor issue. Captain Marvel's been a thing. She's been a black woman for Christ's sake.
Just to say, what's next? A black-led Marvel movie? Oh, that's not going to make any money. Yeah, that would never be like the third highest-grossing film of all time.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
it's not the third we're okay.
We're okay with a black.
You know what I mean?
We're okay with a black guy superhero-led film, but for fuck's sake, if the women could just stay home and make sandwiches, that would be fine.
But Mark, where's my White Panther movie?
Stop that.
Yeah, sorry. I apologize to everyone for that one, but you get the point.
Well, are you familiar with the band Consolidated?
Not at all.
So they're an industrial band from like the 90s. Their one-hit single that people are aware of, if you're aware of them at all, is Tool and Die, which is about gun control. But they showed that they edited in clips from one of their shows in the album, and so there's a whole bit in there where a guy is screaming into the microphone, "Why can't we have a white day when we have a black?" That sort of basically what you just did.
Where's White History Month?
Right.
Yeah, it's like, well,
and
the guy the other 11 months of the year, and there you go.
Well, that's what. So the guy from Consolidated comes on. And he's just like, "What you don't seem to understand is white people have always had what they needed, and black people don't. If you don't understand that, get a clue." So yeah, just.
I am the worst guy in the world to sit in on this discussion.
Yeah, sorry. There we kind of
hate
hijacked
progressives.
All right, so back to Transformers. Go and Amnesia. Hit it.
No, again, I hate Amnesia. I genuinely do. Like it is again my least favorite narrative.
But it was
device.
In the film, and
it sucked.
Okay.
Look again. I think it's lazy. I think Amnesia is lazy writing.
You don't see the context in the story that they were telling. Where
would you let me make my point?
Go, man! You have the floor.
I think Amnesia is
told me
lazy
to shut
writing.
up, so I shut up.
Okay, thank you. That doesn't mean it can't be used to varying degrees of efficacy. It just means you're still lazy. In this instance, it was. If they decided that we can't come up with any better reason for this character to behave in adorably awkward ways than Amnesia, then they at least did something with it that was, again, not exactly groundbreaking. In fact, it is an unbelievably well-trod ground, but is at least not off-putting beyond, again, the laziness of Amnesia generally. And it facilitates a bit of personality for a character, and it facilitates a lot of his arc. So I hate it. Again, I can hate it, but I can also say that this is not the worst instance of Amnesia being used in film. And while I think there are other ways they could have gone about it, they made their choices, and again, it's not the worst. It's not even the worst element of this movie. So there is that. I made a joke last week, a couple of weeks ago, when Mark and I reviewed Aquaman, that I was going to take a notepad with me and just make a hash mark of every scene I saw in this movie that was essentially copied from another movie. Given the circumstances under which I saw this movie, it was kind of a last-minute thing. The whole family went at like 10 in the morning. I didn't get to take my notepad with me, so I kept track in my head, and I stopped counting around 18. There is nothing even remotely new in this movie. If you watch this movie and you think, hey, I've seen that before, you have. Now, on the plus side, it's all well executed. I mean, again, there's nothing original here, but it's all done well enough that I can live with the near plagiarism. So, again, it's fundamentally well executed. The acting is all serviceable except for John Cena, whose character exists as nothing more than an excuse to have the audience observe information in a space other than where Bumblebee or Charlie are. I mean, the fact that Cena got some of the better laughs in my theater was a bit depressing, actually. Because, I mean, the fact that his when they're all sitting at the proverbial military table, and can we really figure out where exactly Sector 7 ranks in this? Is it a government agency? Is it part of the military? Is it what's its relationship with the how exactly does it fit into this? Because they have it at this point, it's about as ambiguous as the Force in that, well, whatever the plot needs it to do.
It's part of Homeland Security.
Okay, then it shouldn't really have an interaction with the military the way they have portrayed it. At all.
That was a joke because the Homeland Security didn't come about until after 9/11 in 2001.
Okay. It was a bad joke then.
Well, you just didn't get it. That's all. Know your history.
I mean, I thought you were making it. You said that was like Homeland Security, which I believed you were just making an organizational reference.
Ugh. Move on.
I'm not all up on this wrestling stuff, but John Cena, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't he enlisted at one point?
No.
Maybe.
He went to school and he studied what is it, kinesiology. And then as soon as he got out of school, he was like a personal trainer. But at some point, he went to California and
he and Samoa Joe were like roommates in California and started professional wrestling together.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, I was thinking of someone else. Never mind. Point withdrawn.
Look, I mean, John Cena certainly looks like your stereotypical jarhead. He acts like your stereotypical jarhead, but John Cena's a terrible action star. He has no screen presence. He has no feel for it. He has no... it's just not his bag.
He seems to be doing better in the comedy realm.
Because he is a surprisingly effective, funny guy, based on all I've heard. Because I haven't seen any of the comedies he's done because I don't think I'd enjoy them, and that's not a knock on anyone involved necessarily. That's just I know my sense of humor.
He was in an Amy Schumer movie a couple of years ago, and
he's in several of them.
And he played her boyfriend.
Trainwreck. Wasn't he like a latent homosexual?
I think he was a latent homosexual, but he was like overly obsessed with,
masculinity,
CrossFit,
men,
CrossFit. He was overly obsessed with CrossFit, and the jokes were kind of about that. So he's dating this pot smoking slob of a woman, and they're basically connected.
I didn't know he was actually dating Amy Schumer.
In the movie, he is. It's a boo. And so the jokes are basically about how he wants her to be his CrossFit queen, and she's like, I just want to smoke pot and not care about life. What else?
Apparently, he was the funniest part of some crappy movie that featured both Amy Poehler and Tina Fey, which isn't hard because neither of them are all that funny.
Oh, that's the one where they wreck their parents' house. They're like in their 40s and they throw a party and wreck their parents' house. And he plays like a drug dealing neighbor.
He's got a bunch of like bad face tattoos or something like that. It's the point being he's got a much better gift for comedy than he does for action.
I think,
and he gets a few laughs. Quite frankly, I chuckled when they're sitting around that military table, and he goes, "They call themselves Decepticons. Doesn't this raise any red flags for anybody else?"
I'm glad someone said it.
Yeah. But to one of your earlier points about about his relationship with Bumblebee, I mean, his whole squad was blown up, and he sees Bumblebee walking away from the explosion. He does not have a clear memory of what happens, and probably thinks it was, Bumblebee's fault.
Well, just more when Bumblebee said, that's not the Air Force, and then told them all to run.
Sure, and
then you don't tell people you are intending to kill to run away. That just, unless you're trying to be really sporting
sure,
about
and
it.
the head trauma related to missiles going off underneath you wouldn't cause any, fuzziness about the specifics of the event, I'm sure.
I have not had that experience, thankfully, so I can't really comment. But bear in mind, this is a film about transforming alien robots.
Sure. Point being, I would have no issue if the explanation for that was he was severely concussed. He doesn't remember everything clearly.
Yeah, I understand it. It's just, it would kind of be nice if just for a change, maybe we had a military character whose relation to the alien wasn't, we need to kill it.
I mean, we could try to get Tyrese back, I suppose. All right, let me think. Was there anything else I had on this? I mean, I think I largely agree with you. It's a decently entertaining popcorn movie, but that's about it.
Okay. Well,
yeah,
it's 2019, and there's no time like the present to quit wasting time, so let's talk about the money. Here we go. Wait, no, wrong one.
Really? Did you just pause us again?
No, I hit the wrong music button.
Oh yeah, I gotta get my new soundbite for the MMA show now that they're leaving Fox.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar.
Alrighty, there was absolutely no movement this past weekend. Everything that was out before stayed the same. Aquaman stayed number 1, Mary Poppins number 2. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Bumblebee number 3, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse number 4. Quite frankly, and The Mule actually stayed at number 5. So literally no movement for 2 weeks. Vice, which I did see with my wife, as well as Mary Queen of Scots.
Shame on them for making that one.
Debuted at number 6. Just a quick word on Vice. Not as good as I wanted it to be, but Christian Bale does deserve an Oscar.
He does not deserve an Oscar.
Sure he does.
His makeup team deserves an Oscar.
No, I thought he did a good job playing Dick Cheney. I actually saw the movie. Shut up. And Holmes and Watson debuted at number 7, which was so bad the movie is causing mass walkouts. Not a good look for Sony.
Yeah, guys, everyone out there who wants to go see Holmes and Watson, go out, find a copy of Without a Clue. Michael Caine, Ben Kingsley, it'll just be a much better experience.
That's fair.
Second act, which is the I'm going to forget her name again. Jennifer Lopez movie fell from 7 to 8. Ralph Breaks the Internet 8 to 9. The Grinch 6 to 10 because Christmas is over now. Mary Queen of Scots, which my wife really enjoyed and left me utterly confused for the entire 2 hours I watched it.
But Mark, it's all about female empowerment. Of course you're confused. You're a beneficiary of the patriarchy.
10 to 11, The Favorite 11 to 12, Bohemian Rhapsody 12 to 13. Welcome to Marwen 9 to 14. Apparently it's terrible. Green Book stayed at number 15. Something called Simba debuted at number 16. Creed fell from 14 to 17. Mortal Engines 13 to 18. Fantastic Beasts 17 to 19. And finally, Instant Family, which is the Mark Wahlberg movie, fell from 19 to 20. We had another debut from Focus Films this weekend, On the Basis of Sex. That debuted at number 22. Stan and Ollie, which started off in some small theaters, will be getting a full release, I believe, January 11th, which I'm probably going to go see. Excuse me.
Somebody wants an Oscar.
So we saw the trailer for it when we were seeing Mary Queen of Scots, and it looks pretty good. So I'll probably go check that out. And something else called Destroyer debuted at number 33. And that is it for the weekend wrap-up. Where we are for the year 2018 worldwide. Aquaman is running up the charts, ladies and gentlemen. Currently sitting at number 7 for the year at $751 million. Venom currently at number 5 at 855. It has ended its run there. It's not getting any higher than that. Of course, the top 4 have been the same 4 since the summer. Mission Impossible at number 6. Deadpool at number 8. Bohemian Rhapsody, big win for Fox, has risen to $702 million at number 9. And number 10, knocking out Ant-Man and the Wasp out of the top 10, is Fantastic Beasts from Warner Brothers. So where we are as far as the end of the year, we have your top 2 movies for the year are Avengers and Black Panther, both Disney. Your number 3 was Universal, and Universal has no other movies in the top 10. After Jurassic World, the best that Universal could muster was Dr. Seuss's The Grinch at number 17. Sony hit it out of the park with Venom. They are the number 5 movie for the year. Their second best...
nothing else.
Their second best was Hotel Transylvania 3, Summer Vacation, with $527 million.
Yeah, nothing else.
Paramount had one entry into the top 10, and that was Mission Impossible. Their next best one was, looks like number 27, A Quiet Place.
Which was a pretty good movie.
So, it's only a matter of time before Paramount gets bought by Disney. But not.
Look, that statement is true of literally everything in the world.
Warner Brothers, for a while their best entry was Ready Player One. Obviously now it's Aquaman, followed by Fantastic Beasts, and then Ready Player One. They actually did not too bad. If you look at the studio indices for the year, Disney, of course, is number 1 because The Mouse. Warner Brothers came in at
They're
number 2.
1, and they will be number 1 forever.
But Warner Brothers, doesn't totally stink. No.
Like that's I'm not sure that's not an accurate statement.
Well, no, I mean they're apparently in a neck and neck fight with Universal, who's usually number 2. But I'll tell you what, Warner Brothers has not done terrible this year. They've had a couple of very successful movies in their top 5. They had A Star Is Born, which did well for them. Crazy Rich Asians, Fantastic Beasts, The Meg, Ocean's 8, which middling, and Ready Player One. And you had, just rounding out their top 10, you have The Nun, Rampage, Smallfoot, and Aquaman. None of these things were, I don't think any of the ones they put out this year were huge failures. Teen Titans.
Do you mean financially or artistically?
No, I'm not. I'm never talking artistically.
The segment is called The Money.
Yeah. Even
if you just mean financially, I think Ocean's 8 bottomed out pretty hard.
Teen Titans Go to the Movies only had a $10 million budget and it did $50 million, so that was a success.
That's solid.
Yep. You wanted me to look at Ocean's 8? Ocean's 8 had a $70 million budget. No, it rocked the house to almost $300 million.
Fair enough.
So, like I said, I don't think there are any major losses this year. Real quick.
No, probably not, actually.
Box office bombs. I'm going to quick look up I know the biggest box office bomb this year was Mortal Engines.
Look, there were 4 major bombs this year. 2 of them were Disney's, but no one cared because
Disney.
They also won the top 3 spots.
Yeah.
They can afford to take a couple of bombs.
Yeah, Disney.
Look, they can afford to badly render Reese Witherspoon turning into a slice of romaine lettuce.
Take a drink, everyone!
All right, yeah, Mortal Engines lost between $100 and $150 million. Solo, Disney, lost about $50 to $80 million. And Reese Witherspoon turns into romaine lettuce, $86 to $186 million. Let's see.
Also probably more.
And Mortal Engines was a Universal.
I mean, again, the other major flop was Robin Hood. That was Lionsgate.
Yeah.
Well, and apparently we also we now do have to consider Holmes and Watson just a catastrophic crater upon arrival.
Yeah, but I don't think it made any money. I mean, I don't think it cost that much to make.
I don't know. What was its budget?
Let's see. Tuning, nothing more than tuning. 42 million. It hasn't even made half of that yet.
It's not going to either. That thing's a massive bomb. But okay, it cost less than $50 million to make. Fair.
But it's, it was a Sony Columbia movie, and at this point they're so happy with the success of Venom. This is just a write-off. They're like, so fucking what? A vanity project by best friends. John
Look,
C.
we're gonna
Reilly.
ride high on the wave of Venom until we make a crappy PG-13 maximum carnage movie that everyone hates.
Look, the only people really affected by this are Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. This was their vanity project, their buddy project, and it failed. And Sony's like, whatever, we'll just write it off.
And there's another very similar vanity project you're making me review this year that I'm hoping will also just crater upon impact.
Which one is that?
Fighting with My Family. That's nothing but a vanity project for The Rock.
Woohoo!
No, I'm genuinely pissed you're making me see that. I'm just warning you.
I'm more curious to see how the without Spider-Man cinematic universe movies pair that are not Venom films. Like, is anybody going to go
terribly.
see Morbius or Mobius, whatever the heck it's called?
One.
We will be, because I'm making him review it.
I would rather watch Blade Trinity.
As far as you having to review Fighting with My Family, blame my wife and blame my kids because they all want to go see it.
Oh, I believe me, I do. But I blame them for putting it more into your orbit than, oh, hey, The Rock did something stupid.
So, as far as January...
This is like you just insisting that I suffer alongside you, and I object to that.
So,
you could always not go and see the movie.
I'm seriously debating it with this one. Like, I'll just go see something else and just review that, and Mark can fumble around in the dark trying to figure out how he's going to run this.
As I was saying, so this Friday, the only movie of consequence coming out is another Sony release. This is the horror movie Escape Room. It's
of no consequence.
It's of no
consequence.
It'll
Millennials
matter
like
to
these
nothing.
escape room things. Let's make a movie about it, and we'll make money because that's a thing that kids know about that I don't.
I guarantee you that was the pitch when this thing got made.
Almost certainly.
This is the emoji movie for like people in their 20s.
So, this will affect nothing. I'm sure Aquaman will...
Why do studio executives think horror fans are stupid? I genuinely don't get it.
I'm sure Aquaman will still be the number one movie in the world and will be marching on its way to $1 billion next week.
I don't think it'll hit $1 billion.
The 11th is A Dog's Way Home, replicas on the upside. Again, nothing. This is just the first 2 weeks of January are a fucking dumpster fire. And then finally we get something of consequence that might start to bite into some of these other movies. And that's Universal's M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movie, Glass. I'm actually
kind of looking forward to that.
I gotta rewatch Unbreakable, and I actually have to watch Split before I see this.
I mean, yeah, you definitely do. I really liked Unbreakable the first time I saw it as a follow-up to Sixth Sense. It's been a while since I've seen Split, but I really like James McAvoy, so I will rewatch it before seeing this movie. But Shyamalan seems to have... I mean, he's such a manic filmmaker. Like, there's no middle ground. It's either really interesting or the drizzling shits.
All right. Well, speaking of the drizzling shits, I have a question for you.
Oh God.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! No! No!
There's only 8 of these, so I'm just going to read them all.
I can't believe I set you up for that segue like that. I am so mad at myself.
Matthew Dougherty of The Filtered Lens. The special effects surrounding these robots' radical changes isn't as wow-inducing as it was 11 years ago. But at least Bumblebee tries to tell a story while it employs them.
It wasn't even wow-inducing 11 years ago. Like, that was part of the problem. It just looked bad.
Pat Brown of Slant Magazine. Bumblebee exudes some of the tediousness of a reformed sinner who decries hedonism, trying hard to convince us now that it believes in something.
I mean, you're really stretching the metaphor there, buddy.
Yeah, not much to say about the film there, eh?
Yeah. I mean, loosely buried within that Drek is a point that is somewhat valid, but man, that is badly put together.
I mean, I understand that the toughest film reviews to write are reviews for, like, good movies. Like, not great movies, just, like, okay films. Because there's nothing to really praise, and there's nothing to really hate on.
I mean, there's nothing to praise and there's nothing to bash. It's just, it exists.
Pretty much, yeah. But I guess you got to hit that word count somehow.
Vikram Murthy of The Film Stage. Bumblebee may sport a thoughtful character arc and a throwback vibe, but it's not meaningfully different than the other 5 entries into the Transformers series. Go fuck yourself. Okay?
You just said it was different in the opening of your review.
There's a shocking lack of intellectual consistency contained within that singular paragraph.
First of all, look, I am known, and Robert, and I fight over this constantly. It's become a thing on this show. If you're playing Rattledge and Broadcasting Bingo, there's a spot on there for Robert and Mark fight about Age of Extinction. But look,
it's
even
the top left corner.
Even I will admit, Revenge of the Fallen is the worst fucking thing I've ever seen. It's so bad. It's so overly convoluted. I mean, Dark of the Moon, I thought was a strong comeback. But again,
Dark of the Moon, at least, Dark of the Moon is a mess and a massive failure, but at least it's simple. Revenge of the Fallen is a mess and an utter failure, but adds in a bunch of needlessly complex lore.
So he's saying, a thoughtful character can throw away, but it's not meaningfully different than the other 5. You couldn't get much simpler than Bumblebee. Like, Bumblebee is like animated children's movie simple, whereas the Michael Bay ones were.
Yeah, that's literally what they stole all their scenes from.
Jesus Christ!
I mean, look at the cinematography in Bumblebee. It has some.
Like, you can actually tell what's going on.
Yeah, the fight scenes don't look like 2 piles of garbage trying to figure out how to have sex with each other.
The camera work is actually centered on the action instead of shaky and blasting all over the place, resulting in your brain's inability to actually process anything visually and leading to the whole experience being a blur. I know people, and I think Mark, you and I have both seen the video of the person who goes, "There's absolutely no scene of a Transformer peeing on John Turturro in the first Transformers movie." There is absolutely a scene of one of the Transformers peeing on John Turturro, but the movie's so badly constructed it actually prevents your brain from forming concrete memories around it.
Speaking of which, Barry Hertz of Globe and Mail, top critic. After the cacophonous abomination that was Michael Bay's Transformers the last night, I suppose the mere whiff of competency smells good in comparison. These are just people who didn't want to go see this movie but were forced to by an editor.
I mean,
it doesn't hurt.
He's right.
I mean,
he's right, but the movie was good other than that. So go ahead,
Mark,
Robert.
you are correct, but so is the reviewer in this instance.
Yeah.
Nick Johnston of Vanyaland. Knight replaces Bay's occasionally enticing flair with a series of uninteresting visual and storytelling choices that have been seemingly dictated by focus groups. Again, go fuck yourself with a cactus.
No,
are you talking about the last
all,
night or Bumblebee in that one?
Fair enough. No, first of all, Michael Bay has no interesting flair to his filmmaking. I mean, his editing style tends to resemble that of badly like if you give an 80-pound woman an M60 that is not properly secured to the ground and let her just depress the trigger, that's the equivalent of Michael Bay's editing style. This is competently edited. It's competently shot. And, I mean, if you're confusing drab messes with cinematic flair, then sure, Michael Bay has flair.
David Mad Dog Bradley of Adelaide Review. While there are elements...
Wait, he actually has Mad Dog in his...
Yeah, I did not add
line.
that. David Mad Dog Bradley of Adelaide Review.
Nuts to this guy.
Coming from parts unknown. Well, there are elements here that work, including Steinfeld's impressive performance as a formidably sullen teen. It's still at heart just another damn Transformers movie. Oh, wah, you have to review movies for a living. Wah.
You get paid for this. Well, some of us toil in obscurity on podcasts. Shut up, you whiny bitch.
Soren, this one's not much better. Soren Anderson of the Seattle Times, top critic. For his live-action debut, Knight slips into Bay Boom Boom mode.
Did you watch the movie?
Look, I can only assume that your ability to review films competently is as impressive as your ability to choose a bad place to live.
I think he just left the theater after about 1 minute.
I mean, did you just copy and paste your previous Transformers reviews thinking that you could get away with it again? Now,
I know Red Letter Media does that, but it works.
I mean, again, don't get me wrong. In fairness to that point, for the other 5 movies, that does work.
Robert Winfrey's dad, Roger Moore of Movie Nation,
Not my dad.
finds a little charm in going back to the storied children's entertainment roots, but just not a lot of entertainment. It's subjective.
Entertainment's too subjective a term.
I would have liked more robots in Cybertron. That would have been more entertaining, but again,
there's ways you can couch that argument that are more accurate. That said, this movie is very light on the action, which in this instance actually works out okay because they fill the time with other stuff. Some of it more interesting than others. I don't especially need a scene with Charlie in the hot dog on a stick outfit and her boss coming up and saying, I need you to go steal sticks from the frozen banana stand. I mean, Michael Bluth didn't do anything to you people.
Simon Abrams of RogerEbert.com, top critic. 113 minutes and feels longer of a lukewarm John Hughes-ified clone of E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
That is absurd. This is a clone of the Iron Giant.
Yeah.
You, sir, know nothing of film.
Look, if he had just said a clone of the Iron Giant instead of a clone of E.T., I'd have said you're entirely correct.
I mean, come on. Spielberg even give you guys a hint. He put the Iron Giant in Ready Player One. Like, you should have had that already locked and loaded.
Again, look, about this movie, if you've seen Neverending Story Part 2, Iron Giant, E.T., and I had it, and I can't remember what it was.
This is going to end up with the Hero of a Thousand Faces, isn't it?
No. Not that bad. But between those 3 movies and, say, any of the other Transformers, just for the action scenes, you've seen this movie.
Short Circuit.
I've never actually seen Short Circuit.
Johnny Five is alive. Richard Brody of New Yorker, top critic.
No. He writes for the New Yorker. He does not... I don't even need to hear what he says.
Oh, but you do. Where the Bay Transformers movies alternated between ecstasy and dullness, Bumblebee is consistently middling. Point to the ecstasy, please.
Yeah, I'd like to know where you found that, because I've been searching for 10 years.
I mean, look, the fact that you wandered into a regular theater instead of an adult theater is not my problem, sir.
Is he equating pointing a camera at the one broad from the first movie as ecstasy, and that's it? Because I remember the second movie where he's making out with the chick that turns into a Transformer, and I didn't find that, especially tantalizing.
Who are you to kick shame, Mark?
Fair point, but like a nubile, beautiful woman. That's what I look for when I go in to see a movie about a civil war of transforming alien robots. I mean,
look,
guys,
I'm fairly
there's
sure
an entirely
he just wandered into
separate
the wrong
film
theater.
industry that makes films that cater to that desire. You know, like, and they cost a whole lot less to make than $200 million a piece.
Yep.
Jake Wilson.
Look, I maintain he was looking for an adult theater and wandered into a screening of Transformers.
Then complained there wasn't enough porn. Jake Wilson, The Age, Australia. While Bumblebee has evidently been designed as a film that adults and children can enjoy on different levels, this risks leaving both somewhat unsatisfied. Not my kids.
No.
I mean, it's a fair concern, but I don't think it's as valid after you saw the movie, you know, with other people. If you saw this by yourself and you walked out going, you know, I'm not sure it's kiddie enough for kids or adult enough for adults, fair enough. But if you see this in a theater with, you know, any other families in it, you know, it did actually work out. So that might just be a flaw in his screening. I'm just always hesitant to insult too many Australians because they live in Australia, and if you can survive in Australia, you can probably kick my ass.
Jesse Hasinger of the AV Club, top critic.
Oh, no.
If only not being terrible was the same as being good, Bumblebee is still just reheated nostalgia.
Yeah, that's not completely inaccurate, actually.
Matt Brunson of Film Frenzy, this fucking homeless fuck.
Tell us how you really feel, Mark.
Oh, wait. Dan Murrell apparently didn't weigh in on this one, or you'd really hear from me. I suppose after a steady diet of moldy green, 1-month-old bread, even a bite of slightly stale 1-week-old bread would taste delicious. Enjoy the smell of your own farts, do you, Mr. Brunson?
I mean, on the one hand, he's not wrong. On the other, that's an unbelievably stupid way to phrase the sentiment.
I'd put it as a well-made sandwich. You know, not the best thing that you could possibly ever eat, but good.
No, this isn't a well-made sandwich. This is like you pulled up to Subway at like midnight and they're about to close down, but you're the last guy who sneaks in before they close up shop. So they're obligated to actually make you the sandwich, but you know it's not going to be good. But it's going to fulfill the nutritional requirements.
That actually sounds like a really good description of the Michael Bay Transformers movies. Made
No,
because
those
they
are
have
feces.
to, not because they want to.
Charlotte O'Sullivan of London. This is our last one. Charlotte O'Sullivan of London Evening Standard. A frustrating joyride. It'd be twice as good if it was half as long.
If they said half
no.
as many human scenes, I might agree with them.
No, that's not quite. I don't think you could cut this movie in half. You could shave it probably. There's things you could probably trim. But I still don't think you'd get to twice as good. You're still dealing with the script being what it is. And editing won't actually fix that.
All right. Tomorrow here on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we finish the Rattleton Broadcasting Network. We wrap up 2018 on the Metal Hammer of Doom with our year-end special. I'll play some songs. Robert Cooper will play some songs. And Jesse will go over our ranking of the past year. All the 2018 releases, not the soundtracks or the stuff from 2017. Just all the 2018 stuff that we released that he's been tracking. We'll tell you which ones we like the best. We'll tell you which ones we like the worst. Hint, 9 Inch Nails. I promise there'll be 50% less fart jokes on this show. I promise, Amorphous fans. I promise. Next week, it's Judgment Night week, all week long on the Rattleton Broadcasting Network. The action kicks off Tuesday. We'll be doing a TV Party Tonight extra commentary on the Judgment Night movie. Then on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we kick things off with a review of the great soundtrack that was the Judgment Night soundtrack. It's a mashup of rap and metal for the ages. And then finally, our first on trial of the year, Sean Comer and I will put Judgment Night on trial, where he'll be prosecuting and I will be defending. The following week, we will be finally looking at Teen Titans. First, it'll be the first 12 issues, I believe, of the new Teen Titans by Marv Wolfman on source material. Then myself, Alexis Hana, Jesse Starcher, Ronnie Adams, and a cast of thousands will be on TV Party Tonight to discuss the DC Universe live-action Greg Berlanti Arrowverse show, Titans, Season 1. And then the Metal Hammer of Doom kicks off 2019 in earnest with a review of Soilwork Verkleitenhaven. The following week... Oh, I forgot Thursday, January 3rd, our first TV party of the year. Myself and Alexis Hana will be discussing the Netflix cartoon She-Ra, Princess of Power. Back to the week of the 21st. The source material will be looking at Penance, the redemption of Speedball. He was the character responsible for the Marvel Civil War storyline.
Oh, come on. His transformation from Speedball into... you won't get a better bouncy ball into edgelord transformation than you get from that character. It is hilarious and the worst thing at the same time.
Well, Jesse picked it, so...
Jesse hates you.
And our only Damn You Hollywood review for the month of January for a film released in 2019 will be M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's Glass. Metal Hammer of Doom will be reviewing the new Papa Roach because it's our last resort. Get it? This is my last resort. Suffocation.
Mark, I watch too much
no
MMA.
Breathing.
I already hear too much Papa Roach.
You don't hear enough Papa Roach.
No, Mark. Any Papa Roach is too much Papa Roach.
And joining me for a TV party tonight, everywhere you look, it's Pat Mullen, Mr. Toxic Masculinity. We'll be reviewing Season 4 of Fuller House. And finally, January wraps up with a bunch of shows here. We've got some Runaways for you. We've got the complete Runaways Volume 2 on source material. We've got Runaways on Season 2, brought to you by the good people at Hulu and Marvel on January 29th. January 30th is A Pale Horse Named Death on the Metal Hammer of Doom. And finally, Andrew Graham and his lovely wife will be joining me to review Season 2 of The Crown. Real quick, in February, just finalized all of this. We've got a TV party tonight for Voltron. The last season, myself and Robert Winfrey will finally close the book on that. We have an on-trial for Pan's Labyrinth on the 7th. We have...
Whoa. There's nothing to prosecute about Pan's Labyrinth.
Well, we're going to find something.
That is essentially a perfect movie.
Okay. Well, thank you for weighing in on that, but it's still going on trial.
All right.
We finally got a release date for The Punisher, so we'll review that, myself and Robert Winfrey, and probably 900 other people, if it's anything like the last one.
No, I'm absolutely going to put my foot down on this one. We get maybe 2 other people. That's the max. I'm not doing another 8 of us talking about this.
I'll tell you what, if it's another panel like that, I won't show up to that show. I'll just let you run it.
I'm not running that shit.
Punisher Season 2 on February 12th. And then we have our only Damn You Hollywood for the month of February, because I'm such a nice guy to Robert Winfrey. I don't want him to kill himself just yet. We're going to be looking
not true at all.
We're looking at Alita Battle Angel. Because I'm sure that's not going to be terrible at all.
No, it's not directed by a horribly divisive filmmaker whose filmography is actually split about 50-50.
And then we close out the month of February with the Black Mirror feature-length movie Bandersnatch. Bandersnatch.
Yay, choose your own adventure.
What is it? Bandersnatch.
Yeah, it's a choose your own adventure movie. At certain intervals, you interact with there's an interface you interact with that determines the flow of the narrative, so you can actually get a bunch of different endings.
Sounds fucking terrible. All right, and then finally, March kicks off the Damn You Hollywood season in earnest.
You just don't want to work for your entertainment.
So we have the aforementioned Fighting With My Family, which is the Paige story from WWE. We have Captain
There's a real chance I'm not watching that, and we'll just find something else to review.
And I will be reviewing it, and Robert will be joining me with spanking it with a thumb up his ass. March 12th is Captain Marvel, whether she smiles or not. And then I will be gone for the week of the 19th. I don't know what's going to happen while I'm away on my cruise, but I will not be here, the man in the ship. We come back on the 26th with the Motley Crue musical biopic, Biopic. My wife tells me it's pronounced biopic. I want to say biopic.
It is. I've been letting you do it because it amuses me.
Well, she lit into me the other day because I said biopic, and I said biopic, and she was like, "That makes no sense. It's a biographical picture. It's biopic," and I refuse to say it right. So yes, we'll be doing the Motley Crue biopic, The Dirt. And then finally, and I'm going to end the plugs here.
That assumes I can even find a showing of that movie in my area.
I
make no promises about that particular movie.
It's still not even listed on the wiki, which is crazy.
Sorry, what?
It's still not even listed on the wiki, which is like crazy to me.
Might not actually be coming out. No, there's a serious consideration for me in that. If I have to drive more than about 20 minutes to see the movie one way, I'm not seeing it. I'm just not putting that much effort into this. If I can't find a showing within my immediate vicinity for The Dirt, I'm not going to review it.
I'll see if I can get Pat Mullen to go see it. I'm sure it's playing somewhere in New York City. And then finally, we close out April 2nd with our Damn You Hollywood review of Dumbo, the live-action remake. All right, so that's all of that. That's the most of our plugs and most of the Damn You Hollywood stuff for the next 3 months. Again, we don't do more than one until we get to March. So, but we'll have some TV parties for you to keep you going until then. All right, David.
No one actually misses this show when it's not on the air.
All right, David. I don't know when you're going to be coming back, if any of that tickles your fancy, but go ahead and do whatever plugs you got going on. Tell people where they can find you or not find you, as the case may be.
Okay, well, if possible, I'd like to come back for The Crown, though I will probably be very busy around that time, so probably not. So looks like you'll avoid getting me and Andrew on at the same time for now. And Captain Marvel, it'd be interesting to actually see the movie to actually find out if it actually is the end of the world or not.
Look, God, I hate this. I hate the stupidity around that. I really do, because you have one segment that's just each side. Like, the extremes of each side are just really loud and really overblowing everything. Like, God, who cares?
What I want to know is how many people were able to see them. We all know what we're
getting. It's a functional rehash of Captain America, because setting up the new wave of superheroes is them just functionally rehashing the stories of the previous three main superheroes. Not point by point, but they're essentially rehashing. Black Panther for Thor, Iron Man for Doctor Strange, and Captain Marvel for Captain America. This isn't complicated. That's what they're doing. It's not it's not going to be awful. It's not going to be the end of the world. It's just going to exist. I don't expect it to be great. I don't expect it to be awful. I expect it to be middling Marvel fare.
I just want to know how so many people on YouTube were able to see it already, because they seem to know that it's going to be terrible, or that it is terrible.
You read the comments in YouTube. That's your first mistake.
Yeah, I try and avoid that as much as possible. One of the easiest things to make your life better, by the way. So we'll see how it goes for those two, and otherwise for just plugs of stuff I've been consuming. Again, since we talked about Transformers, have to mention Lindsay Ellis's The Whole Plate series of video essays. Fantastic analysis.
I think they got linked to those a while back. They're really good.
They are. And just one thing I stumbled across recently is a channel called Filmmaker IQ, where they have a video called Are Comic Book Superhero Movies Destroying Cinema?, which relates to before, when we did a quick analysis of what percentage of films released in a year are actually superhero movies. They got 5%, which I think was pretty close to our number. So that's a good deep dive into that talking point. And I
you
think
want to talk about which ones take up the majority of the marketplace in terms of revenue brought in. Sure, that's lopsided, but there's 20%. Not that many of them.
Apparently they make up 5% of the films released every year and about 20% of the box office. So there you go. If you have a problem with it, you can see one of the other 156 films.
How can it be that in a civilized society, 5% of all films released into the world account for such a disproportionate amount of all the revenue generated? It's not fair. I tell you, it's not fair.
I demand a recount. Mark, you live in Florida. You're in charge.
Robert Winfrey, tell people about all the fights. By the way, that Amanda Nunez is a scary chick, man. Ooh, doggy.
Yeah. So I covered UFC 233 on Saturday in the MMA Zone of 411 Mania. It was an event. Not the worst way to go out on. You had John Jones being John Jones and just smashing the crap out of somebody.
So
you had Amanda.
I have a question. Is there anyone left for Amanda Nunez to fight?
No.
Damn.
You had Amanda Nunes score one of those like monumental victories in the sport. Like watching her smash Chris Cyborg in less than a minute was on par with Chris Weidman knocking out Anderson Silva or Holly Holm head kicking Ronda Rousey or Verdum tapping out Fedor. It's one of those things that on an intellectual level you know is inevitable because everyone loses, but seeing it in reality is just it short circuits your brain a little bit. So good for her. You can listen to the 411 Ground and Pound radio show where we reviewed all of the fights from that event, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and there was some of all of it. We also gave a little bit of our retrospective on 2018. I have written up and submitted my 2018 MMA year-end awards for 411 Mania, so hopefully that'll run. If it doesn't, I imagine you can look forward to a singular lengthy Facebook post in my immediate future where I stayed up till all hours of the godforsaken morning last night writing that thing because I couldn't sleep. It's going to be seen, damn it.
Why wouldn't they publish it?
I don't know.
Well,
I'm not in the head of anyone who... Maybe they don't see it. Maybe they only check for stuff to put up in that zone on a specific timetable. Maybe they only check what I submit on Saturday evenings. I don't know.
I don't know if someone's ever told you this before, but you're a very negative person.
No, you would be the first. Quite frankly, I'm shocked. You have significantly altered my worldview, Mark. How dare you call me a negative person?
Anything else? Negative Nancy?
Yeah. I suppose I may as well go ahead and throw this out there. Coming up in this year, in the lead up to Avengers Endgame, I'm going to be hosting a series of, I think, 3 or 4.
3.
What?
3.
Look, if you don't want to be on it, that's fine.
It's 3.
Okay. A series of 3 podcasts, each one looking at a different phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in preparation for the build-up to Endgame. So, first one we'll look at Phase 1, where I will not allow discussion of the Incredible Hulk because it doesn't count, it sucks, and no one cares.
I'll be on that show, and I'm going to talk about it anyway.
I'm not going to let you. I'm genuinely saying no. Look, there is exactly one person in the entirety of the film industry who thinks that movie counts for anything, and that's William Hurt because it lets him stick around the MCU later.
There would be no Marvel Cinematic Universe without the Hulk. It's an important feature.
It is not. He's not an important character. If you want to get into this when we do that show, I'm more than happy to do that.
I will. I'll defend that movie to the death.
Well, really, you're going to defend what? The crappy animation of the Abomination? The Hulk's stupid-looking hair?
Yes. All of it.
Tim Roth being just nothing but generic bad guy number 1. For some reason, Liv Tyler's continued existence on film.
All of it works in the majesty of film.
Okay, if you're going to go into look, I'm being serious. If you want to get gimmicky with it, fine, I can go gimmicky, but that's my genuine perspective on the movie.
Okay, well, you're very negative.
I'm aware of that. You just told me. I'm reorienting my view on the world.
Okay.
But the point being, we'll be looking at the 3 main phases of the MCU to date. So the first one will tackle Iron Man up through the first Avengers. The second one will then look at Avengers up until Avengers 2. Age of Ultron, I think, is generally accepted as the defining point, and then up and including Captain Marvel. So at least through Infinity War. In preparation for Endgame coming up, so we're going to look back at the different phases, the different movies, fun Easter eggs that we might not have seen before, how any foreshadowing, any bits of writing that might have taken on a different perspective now that we've seen Thanos actually wipe out half the universe, in theory. So it should be a good time. I have Mark for a few of them. I think Alexis was going to be on one of them. We're still hashing out some of the details, but we're going to try and ramp up to Endgame a little bit rather than just drop it, rather than just have it exist in kind of static space on the network. So you can all look forward to that for those of you who enjoy this type of thing. The 411 Ground and Pound radio show is off this week because there is no MMA event until the 19th. So I have 2 Saturdays in a row free. But we'll be back on the 13th to preview UFC on ESPN Plus 1, or UFC Fight Night 143, with its screwy bout order. We're going to see if ESPN Plus can actually handle the traffic. And you've got a pretty good main event, all things considered. I'm waiting for it to fall apart because that's just how MMA works. So, but on the 16th we'll give you on the 13th we'll give you a preview of that full event. So stop by, say hello. That's always appreciated. Mark's been over all of the stuff for Damn You Hollywood, the occasional TV party that I'll be a part of. The Voltron one's going to be interesting because that was not a strong end. This was probably the weakest season they've produced.
Haven't seen it.
That's why I'm not spoiling anything specifically. Although I'm happy to if you'd like me to.
No, I want to be surprised.
You won't be.
Okay.
But no, I was really surprised at how. Again, some of it's good, but there's a lot of just kind of.
Allura is actually a girl in Kansas in 1933, and the whole thing's a dream.
No, but she does die at the end.
God damn it.
Hey, you don't know if I'm lying or not.
What lion? Black lion? Yellow lion?
Hey, they could shake up who's piloting which lion.
Again.
Look. Point being, I thought it was the weakest season they've produced thus far. Mark will probably disagree with me, so you can tune into us discussing it.
I just hope it's as good as She-Ra was.
I disagree with your fundamental premise that She-Ra was good, but
you haven't even seen it.
How do you know I haven't seen it?
Because you're not going to sit there and watch that bullshit.
So you admit it's bullshit.
It's awesome. You're just not going to watch it.
Okay, can I get partial credit for trying to sit through a couple of episodes then?
Did you really?
I'm asking if I can get partial credit for it.
No. You'll get no credit. May God have mercy on your soul. Finish! I want to go play Lego Villains.
Alright. Yeah, I think that's it for me then. As far as plugs go, again, I will have that. For the MMA inclined, I will have that piece running soon. I will... again, if not, if it doesn't actually get run on that, I'm just going to post my list somewhere on... probably on Facebook. Just here
There's
you are.
no reason why they wouldn't... Did you cut that out?
Look, I don't know. I don't know why they don't. They didn't put up the last podcast either, so...
Really? Huh. That's weird. Are they asleep on the job over there?
Look, I'm not... This isn't some grand conspiracy. This isn't woe is me, no one pays attention to what I do. If you don't pay attention to what I do, I know why. It's because it sucks.
Okay. All right, Dave, thanks for coming on. I know for some odd reason you enjoy coming on here to talk about Star Wars and Avengers and Transformers. We always love having you take a trip down from the Canadian office. For Robert Winfrey, the negative Robert Winfrey, this whole segment has been a half an hour.
That's entirely redundant, Mark.
This entire segment has been 30 minutes too long, but we thank you for sticking it out if you have.
Indeed.
Always a pleasure.
We deeply appreciate you as we continue to move forward into 2019 here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. We are working on stuff. You can like the Radulich and Broadcasting Network on Facebook. That's a really good way to stay up to date on what we're doing. We post all of our stuff there. You can also harass Mark there, or you can harass Mark on Twitter,
all right.
which is always a good time.
For David Wright, for Rob Winfrey, I'm your mandated reporter, and thank you. And frankly, I'm mortified. Mr. Mark Radulich, be well, be safe, and behave.